Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Next question. How is equal genetic contribution of male and female parent ensured in the progeny? Okay, so in sexual reproduction, I told you that firstly gametes are formed. These are gametes which contain half the number of chromosomes. Then half chromosomes from male and half chromosomes from female, they fuse together and a recombination of genes occur. So in sexual reproduction, you can see the 50% of the chromosomes are from the male parent and the other 50 are from the female parent. So there is equal contribution of male and female in sexual reproduction. Next question. How do Mendel's experiments show that traits may be dominant or recessive? So if you have seen my video, I told you Mendel, he performed two kinds of experiment. First was the monohybrid and second was dihybrid. So how did he show that traits may be dominant or recessive? This was shown by monohybrid cross. So for that, Mendel took pea plant. Okay, one was pure tall plant, another was pure dwarf plant. Okay, capital T refers to the tall plant. It's a pair of genes, a trait which will show tall plant, and this one is a dwarf plant which is shown by a small letter T. Now first of all, first step is gamete formation. So in this case, both the gametes will contain capital T. In this case, both the gametes will contain the smaller t. If the parent cell contain both the capital genes, I mean it is only symbolic although, then it is called a pure tall plant and this is called a pure dwarf plant. Okay, the size of the plant is smaller. So the cross breeding was done with anther of ovule of one and pollen grains of the other. Cross breeding was done. What was observed in first generation, all the plants were tall. None of the plant was dwarf. How it happens? If you crossbreed them, so it will be one tall, one capital T and one small t from each parent. Then this also can lead to, so all types of combination if you make, what you will notice is all of them have similar kind of chromosomes containing one capital T, one small t, one from the male parent, another from the female parent. So during F1 generation, all the plants were tall. In the second step, what was done that these parents were taken as the parent. Okay, and cross breeding was done among them. Now let's see how gametes will be formed. Now this will be a little different. The gametes will be one capital, one small. In this case, one capital, one small letter. Okay. So, once the gametes are formed, they will fuse together. So, again, we'll get four different types of combination. First is this combination. It will be both capital T. Second is this kind of combination, capital with small. Third one is this, again capital with small. And fourth is this. Both are small. Okay. So, in F1 generation, I told you all the plants were tall. What about F2 progeny? In F2 progeny, 3/4 were tall. Only 1/4 of the plants were dwarf. All these three are tall plants, while this is a dwarf plant. Okay. So, that means there are two types of genes. What are these? Those genes which are able to express themselves, okay, which are visible in F1 progeny, they are called dominant gene. While those which cannot express themselves in the presence of dominant gene are called recessive gene. Okay. So in this case, although one is capital T, another gene is small t, but this small t is not able to express itself, we will not be able to see these characteristics because they are recessive genes. These recessive genes are visible only in the presence of other similar recessive gene. So in this case, both T's are small, so the plant will be dwarf. While all these three plants will be tall. Because capital T is dominant gene. So capital T is present in all three of them. So that is why it will be able to express itself. So these plants are tall. So this small t will not be able to express itself because of the presence of dominant gene. But this small t will be able to express itself because capital T is not present in the cell, only two small t's. So I hope it is clear to you. So by performing monohybrid cross for F1 and F2 generations, the Mendel, he was able to show that some of the genes are dominant while others are recessive. Now the next question, how do Mendel's experiments show that traits are inherited independently? So another kind of experiment performed by Mendel was dihybrid cross, in which he took any two characteristics. So let's take round and yellow. On the other hand, wrinkled and green. Okay. So this is capital R means the seeds are round, while Y represents yellow colored seeds. On the other hand, small r represents wrinkled seeds and small y is green seeds. Okay. So we in this case we are taking into account two different characteristics of the seeds of the pea plant. So when the cross hybrid was done between these two plants, it was in F1, what was found was all the plants were round and yellow. So it was expected that all the plants will be round and yellow because it was found that round seeds and the yellow color of the seeds, both these traits are dominant. So they were able to express themselves in the F1 generation as we studied in monohybrid cross. Similarly, in F1, dominant genes will be able to express themselves. So all the seeds were found to be round and yellow. But when again cross hybrid was done between these two plants from the F1, what was found in F2? Four kinds of combination. One is round yellow, okay, as expected. Another was wrinkled green. Okay, so the ratio was 9:1, but a new type of plant was observed in F2 progeny. They were round with green. Round with green. Another was wrinkled yellow in the ratio 3:3. So 9:3:3:1. This was the ratio in F2 progeny when the parents from F1 there was crossbreeding done between these two types of plants. So that means although we were expecting round yellow and wrinkled green, but this new combination was found in the F2. This shows that the two characteristics, that is either round wrinkled or yellow green, they are inherited separately. Okay, it's not a combination will be inherited. So round or wrinkled will be inherited separately, yellow or green, it will be inherited separately. So this was shown by Mendel's dihybrid cross. So let's move on to the next question. So students, the next question is, a man with blood group A married a woman with blood group O, and the daughter has blood group O. Now, which blood group is dominant? Or the question is this information enough to decide which blood group or which trait is dominant and which one is recessive? So the answer is this information is not enough because both A and O in this case can be dominant. For example, let us assume A is dominant. So the father can have either, okay, this I with A represent the trait that blood group is A, and I with O represents the blood group is O. Okay, so it is O type of gene. Now, since the man has blood group A, so the man can have either pure A genes or he can have this one recessive and one dominant. If we consider that blood group A is dominant and the mother, since she has blood group O, that means mother is has pure recessive genes. So the chances of combination are 50-50, that the offspring will have this combination or just both oval combination. You got it? So in both the cases, in these two cases, the child will have, in this case, the child will have O, in this case, the child will have A blood group. So, on the other hand, if we consider that O is dominant, alright, so then in this, if O is dominant, then the father can have this kind of combination. He can have a recessive A. So in both the cases, it is a possibility that the child will have the blood group O. So this information is not enough to decide which trait is dominant and which one is recessive. But just for the sake of your knowledge, I am telling you that blood group A and the blood group B, that is IA and IB, both these traits are dominant, while the O gene is recessive gene. Okay, so if a person has blood group AB, that means his genes contains this A as well as B. He has this type of chromosomes in which both the dominant genes are present and the dominant gene is able to express itself. You know that. So he has both. That is why the blood group is AB. While on the other hand, if a person has blood group O, then both the traits, they contain O because it's a recessive gene. Then there is only one possibility. Okay. Now, let's move on to the next topic. How is sex of the child determined in human beings? So, in human beings, as you know, sexual reproduction takes place. Half of the genes comes from mother and the other half comes from the father. So, a human beings contains 23 pairs of chromosomes. Out of that, 22 chromosomes determine all other characteristics, right from small things like color of the hair, color of the skin, height, functioning of organs and other characteristics, thousands of other characteristics. But the 23rd pair actually determines the sex of the organism. The 23rd pair is different in males and in females. In females, it is X and X chromosomes. This is how we represent it, XX chromosome in females. On the other hand, in males, the 23rd pair is represented as XY chromosome. Okay. So, now, first step is gamete formation. That is, the cells, they split into half. This type of cell division is called meiosis, in which the chromosome number decreases to half. Okay. So, the gametes have only X half number of chromosomes. So, out of this 23rd pair, both the gametes in females will be identical because they will have the X chromosome. So, all the ova or the female gametes have X chromosome. But in case of males, what will happen? Half the gametes will have X chromosome while the other half will have the Y chromosome. So, these are 50-50% chances. So, 50% of the sperms formed will have X chromosome, the other 50% will have Y chromosome. Now, during fertilization, when fusion of gametes takes place, what are the chances which sperm will fuse with the ovum? That will decide the sex of the baby. Okay. So, if X fuses with the X, the newborn will be X from the female mother and X from the father. So, it will have XX chromosome and this child will be a girl child. Okay. But if this X fuses with the Y chromosome, so X from the mother but Y from the father, it will be a boy child. Okay. So, the sex of the child depends upon which sperm actually fuses with the ovum during fertilization. I hope it's clear to you. Now, the next question. A study found that children with light colored eyes are likely to have parents with light colored eyes. Now, on this basis, can we say that light colored eye is dominant or recessive? Okay, so as we just discussed in this blood group question also, this information is not enough to decide whether this light colored eye trait is dominant or recessive, because we have to study a large population over generations, then only it is decided whether the given trait is dominant or recessive. Because these parents, whether they have pure gene or a combination of dominant recessive, all these things are to be studied. Next question. Which type of organism will have more variation, asexually reproducing or sexually reproducing? So, as I told you, in asexual reproduction, only one parent is involved. Okay, suppose this is an amoeba cell with a nucleus. So, what will happen? First, the nucleus will DNA copying takes place and double the number of chromosomes are formed. So, in the nucleus, what will happen? Double the number of chromosomes will be formed, and then the cytoplasm will start dividing, and then slowly this will break into two cells. Okay, so one cell gives rise to two cells. In this case, the chances of variation are very, very low, because since only during DNA copying only some variation can occur. Otherwise, more or less, the parent cells, they are exact copies of the daughter cells are exact copies of the parent cell. But in case of sexual reproduction, there is a new combination formed. Okay, half chromosomes from the male and half from the female, they fuse together to form a new combination. So that is why these new offsprings are not exact copies of their parents, and there are more chances of variation in sexually reproducing organisms. Next question. What are the functions of chromosomes? So the functions of chromosome, first is during for hereditary. As I told you, in this case also, if you see, this daughter cells will resemble the parent cells because the hereditary material or the genes, they are transferred from the parents to the next generation of springs. Second is sex determination. Chromosomes help in determining the sex of the baby, whether it will be a girl child or the boy child. This is also decided by the chromosomes. And third, one more function of chromosomes can be to bring about variation and evolution. Slight changes in the chromosome in generation after generation gives rise to new species, new kinds of variations in the given species. Next question. Why did Mendel choose pea plant for his experiment? As we discussed, Mendel performed various experiments, both monohybrid and dihybrid, to study how genes are actually transferred from parents to the next generations. And for his experiments, he chose pea plant. Why did he do that? Because of various reasons. First reason is that pea plants had certain very distinct characteristics, which are very easy to observe. For example, length of the stem. So, some of the pea plants are tall while the other pea plants are short. So, it is easy to distinguish between tall and the dwarf plant. Then, the seeds, some are round, others are wrinkled. The color of seeds is yellow and green. So, likewise, there are few other characteristics which are totally different from each other and which are very easy to observe. Second reason is that pea plant is a self-pollinating plant. Okay, so reproduction is easy in these. Third reason is that it grows very fast, so the life cycle is short, so it's easy to perform the experiment in a shorter duration of time. Does genetic combination of mother plays role in determination of the sex? Please refer to question number 9, which I just discussed. I told you how sex of the newborn baby is determined. So mother has both X chromosomes. Okay, in mother, XX chromosomes are present, but in males, X and Y chromosomes are present. So, if X gamete, so in mother, all the gametes are similar, they contain the X chromosome. But in father, the sperms are different. 50% of the sperms contain X chromosomes and 50% contains the Y chromosomes. So it is the sex of the newborn baby actually is determined by which sperm first fuses with the ovum during fertilization. So the genetic combination of mother does not play a significant role in determining the sex of the child. It actually depends upon the chromosomes present in the sperm. So that's all from this chapter. I've discussed few important questions along with answers. I hope it's clear to you.